Surprise inspection. Anyone who stops me, I shoot. That's what she shouted. Yeah, you heard that right. My peaceful Sunday got ripped apart when Karen, in all her red-heeled, clipboard-wielding glory, kicked open my front door like she thought she was storming some terrorist hideout, marching into my living room as if she owned the air I breathed, her perfume showing up before she even did, some toxic floral disaster that you could probably smell from the next county, and suddenly, there she was, standing with that ridiculous confidence only someone truly drunk on paperwork can muster, ready to execute me for my crimes. A crooked chair and a trash cannot wheeled out on time. You know what I mean? But what stopped her cold wasn't me, or my coffee, or my so-called violations. It was the man in the corner, silent, calm, hand resting near his belt, where, for once, the only actual legal firearm in the room was. Not that Karen cared for legalities when she was high on the fumes of her own authority. The guy didn't flinch, didn't blink, just watched. And as Karen started stammering, realizing maybe she'd gone a bit too far, maybe, just maybe, this wasn't going to be another easy win. He said it, low and easy, like someone who's spent enough time around real trouble to recognize a bad bluff. I think today would be a good day to read your orders carefully before we start talking about bullets. The air in the room changed, right then, like that moment before a thunderstorm when you know something big is about to go down, but you don't know which way it's going to break. And I just sat back, letting the show unfold, wondering who was going to get taken down first. My coffee was cold by then, my mind racing through every cop instinct I'd learned in 10 years with LAPD, telling me not to escalate, not to move, not to play Karen's game, because this felt orchestrated, like someone was running a script, and I'd just stumbled into the third act. She finally found her voice, all tremble and edge. Mr. Rodriguez, I'm conducting an unscheduled compliance inspection per HOA Regulation 47B. Your lawn exceeded the approved height by half an inch yesterday. And frankly, your attitude toward community standards has been noted. The way she said it, the way she stood there, you'd think she was announcing a nuclear launch, not scolding me about grass. But I recognized the look in her eyes, that power trip some people get when they realize nobody's ever pushed back, nobody's ever called their bluff. She flashed a stack of official-looking papers at me, hands shaking just enough to betray the nerves underneath, and declared herself president of Sunridge Meadows HOA, queen of the cul-de-sac, judge, jury, and, apparently, firing squad if her orders were ignored. Let me back up a sec. Karen wasn't always this way. Sunridge Meadows used to be just another sleepy subdivision where kids rode bikes, people waved at each other, and Saturday meant barbecue smoke curling over fences. But ever since Karen started running the HOA, things changed. She turned neighborly concern into surveillance, gossip into policy, fines into a revenue stream. And she didn't work alone. As she kept reading from her clipboard, that's when the twist hit, the man in the corner. He leaned forward, just enough, his badge flashing for half a heartbeat, his voice cutting through Karen's act. You should read that document more carefully before talking about legal authority in someone else's home. And she cracked. Right there, lost her momentum, her clipboard shaking now, not from power, but from fear. Who are you? She blurted, voice going shrill. He didn't answer at first, just showed her his ID. The name said Rodriguez. The silence got loud, the kind of silence that comes right before the roof falls in, and I realized, watching him, that this wasn't random. This was personal. This was someone who knew what was going on, and he wasn't here for her drama. He was here because something real was at stake. Karen, desperate to save face, switched tactics. Perhaps we should discuss the other matters. People are talking about your background. Marcus, why you left law enforcement so early, what you're hiding. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about grass. This was about character assassination, about breaking down anyone who might resist, about control. The man in the corner, Rodriguez, leaned in, laser-focused, and I realized Karen had planned this, built up the rumors, recruited enforcers from among the most vulnerable neighbors. She gestured at the window, and I saw them. 3 men in black vests. One of them my neighbor Tommy, all looking like they'd rather be anywhere else but here, caught up in her fantasy police force. It would have been hilarious if it wasn't so chilling. Grown men in Pokemon slippers, roped into this fake authority to avoid Karen's wrath, each of them blackmailed over mailbox colors or oil stains, or whatever else she could dream up. And Rodriguez? He saw it all. He wasn't just watching. He was documenting, cataloging the madness. His calm a stark contrast to Karen's unraveling facade. Twist number 2 came when Tommy, my neighbor, showed up at my door after sunset, vest in hand, voice shaking. "This has gotten out of hand," he said. "She's got files on everyone. Photos, notes, times you leave, when your packages come, everything." Turns out, Karen had built her own little surveillance state, weaponized the HOA rules, and used Tommy and the others to spy on neighbors, manufacture violations, and squeeze every last drop of money from anyone who dared to resist. "She said volunteering would erase my fines," Tommy confessed. "But it's never enough. She just finds more things to punish you for." Danny, my son, was upstairs on his tablet, following all of this unfold in the neighborhood Facebook group. "Dad, she's posting again," he said, making it sound like we're the threat, like you're hiding something dangerous. That's when the idea hit. Live stream the whole HOA meeting that Karen had called for that night. Put everything out in the open. Let the whole community see her dirty playbook. The meeting was a circus, Karen flanked by her enforcement team. Her evidence projected on big screens, doctored photos, red circles around nothing, lists of violations that were as manufactured as her authority. But then Mrs. Chun, third row, stood up, holding a fine for unauthorized landscaping, pointing out her rose bushes were actually 6 inches inside the allowed area. One by one, people started comparing notes, stories, realizing the fraud was bigger, deeper, more organized than anyone suspected. And then Tommy, shaking but determined, plugged in his tablet and played the footage he'd secretly recorded. Videos of Karen staging violation scenes, moving trash cans, pouring oil, even adding garden gnomes to people's yards before photographing them as evidence. The room went silent, a collective breath held as the truth dropped like a hammer. Karen's last defense was to threaten lawsuits, confidentiality agreements, but by now, the tide had turned. Neighbors demanded to see their own files, and the live stream audience swelled into the hundreds. But the real knockout punch came when Rodriguez finally introduced himself. Detective Luis Rodriguez, Financial Crimes, revealing he'd been investigating Karen for weeks, that her operation extended far beyond our neighborhood, teaching other HOAs how to commit the same fraud, taking a cut of every manufactured violation across multiple counties. She'd franchised corruption, created a consulting business selling her playbook to anyone willing to pay. The evidence was overwhelming. Shell companies, fake legal docs, background checks funded with residents' own fees. By dawn, federal agents, county investigators, local police, all were descending on Karen's house, hauling out boxes of evidence, computers, cash, even the photography equipment she used to stage violations. Karen emerged in cuffs and a bathrobe, her empire of intimidation crumbling under real authority, her power gone, her lies laid bare. Danny live streamed the whole thing, turning a local scandal into a national story, and before lunch, news trucks lined the street, interviewing neighbors, taking statements, documenting years of abuse and fraud. Within weeks, the consequences rolled in. Karen pled guilty to fraud, racketeering, conspiracy. Her fake lawyer got prison for impersonating an attorney. The private investigator selling illegally obtained resident info was exposed, prosecuted, and his client list uncovered similar scams in neighborhoods across the state. The HOA was completely restructured, new board elected, Tommy, yeah, the guy she'd bullied into enforcement, became president, running on a platform of transparency, real community, and zero tolerance for corruption. 6 months later, our neighborhood was almost unrecognizable, but in the best possible way. The fines were gone, the fear was gone, the fences were coming down, figuratively and literally, as people started trusting each other again. Danny, who never wanted to be in the spotlight, had become a hero in journalism classes, his livestream a case study in community activism. "Dad," he told me, scrolling through emails from universities wanting him to speak, "I think I want to keep doing this. Telling stories that matter. Shining a light." And I knew Maria would be proud. Her belief in family, in connection, in fighting for what's right, had saved us all in the end, not just from Karen, but from the isolation we'd let fear build around us. Sometimes, The biggest battles are fought with sunlight and truth, not fists or fines. Sometimes you win not by hiding, but by standing together, making sure nobody ever gets to rule by fear again. So, tell me, have you ever felt powerless against someone who abused their authority, someone who made the rules just to break you? What did you do? How do we keep our communities safe without becoming a surveillance state? Drop your stories below. Let's learn from each other. Because at the end of the day, justice only works when regular people refuse to let injustice stand. If you believe in that, you're in the right place. Stick around, share your truth, and let's keep this light shining.